Today, we're going to dive into the ideas of John Locke, a philosopher whose blueprint for a fair society, written over 300 years ago, basically laid the groundwork for modern freedom and government as we know it.
So let's start with a thought experiment. Just imagine, for a second, a world with zero rules. No laws, no police, not a single government official, no one to tell you what to do, but also no one there to protect you. This is the exact place Locke starts to build his entire philosophy. So, what would this world actually look like? Well, Locke had a specific name for it. He called it the state of nature. Now, you might think this means total, utter chaos, right? But for Locke, not exactly. He believed that even without a government, we're all guided by reason, and that reason creates a kind of universal law of nature, which basically says, hey, we're all equal, so no one should harm anyone else's life, liberty, or property. It sounds nice and peaceful, but there's a huge catch. And here's the central problem. On one hand, you have complete, absolute freedom to do whatever you want. But on the other hand, there's absolutely no guarantee that anyone else is going to respect your freedom. Your rights are always at risk, which makes life, as Locke put it, very unsafe, very insecure. So what are these rights that are in so much danger? For Locke, it all comes down to three fundamental, non-negotiable rights that every single person is born with. Your right to life, your right to liberty, and your right to property. These natural rights are the bedrock of his whole vision for a better society. Okay, so if the state of nature is so risky, how do you get out of it? Well, Locke says people make a smart, rational choice. They make a deal. And this is what we can call the great trade-off. And it's really, really important to understand what Locke means by property here. He's not just talking about your stuff, like your house or your land. He's talking about the whole package, your life, your liberty, and your possessions. The fact that all three are constantly in danger is the big motivation for people to find a new way to live together. He basically boiled the problems down to three big inconveniences. First, not everyone's going to play by the rules. Some people will just ignore that law of nature. Second, when people disagree, and they will, there's no neutral referee to step in and make a fair call. And third, even if you're in the right, there is no power to back you up and enforce a just outcome. So people decide to make what Locke famously called a social contract. They willingly give up just one thing: their individual power to punish others. They hand that power over to a central government. But listen, it's not a surrender, it's a trade. You trade a little bit of that chaotic, perfect freedom for something much more valuable: real security, where your rights are actually protected by law.
All right, so we've all agreed to form a government. But what kind of government should it be? Locke didn't just stop there. He had a very specific blueprint for a government that would actually serve the people, not control them. This is it. The one single legitimate job of any government, according to Locke. Its entire reason to exist is to do the one thing we couldn't do on our own in the state of nature: protect everyone's life, liberty, and property. That's its only mission. And to get that job done, Locke said a government needs two main parts. First, you have the legislative power. This is the part that makes the laws for everybody. Locke thought this was the most important one, the supreme power. And then you have the executive power, which is the part that actually enforces those laws. And here's the really brilliant part, the idea that has shaped the modern world. Locke insisted these two powers have to be separate. They must be held by different people or different groups. Why? Because if the same people who make the laws also have the power to enforce them, what's to stop them from making tyrannical laws that only benefit themselves?
Now, this was a huge deal at the time. It meant that everyone, even the king or the president, is subject to the same laws as every other citizen. No one is above the law. The government is a servant of the law, not its master.
So, if the legislative branch makes the rules and the executive branch enforces them, it kind of begs the question, right? Who's really in charge here? Locke's answer to this question would literally shake the thrones of kings all across Europe. And the answer is this: a government doesn't just have power. Its power is only entrusted to it. It's on loan, you could say, from the people it governs. It's a temporary job with public trust, not a permanent right to rule. This leads us to the ultimate safety valve in Locke's system. What if the very government you created to protect you turns against you? What happens when it starts to threaten your life, your liberty, or your property? And here it is, straight from the man himself. Locke argues that when the government breaks that social contract, the ultimate power snaps back to the people. They have the supreme right to get rid of that government and create a new one that will do its job. In other words, the right to revolution.
So, after all this, leaving the state of nature, making a contract, building a government with separated powers, who is the final say? Who is the ultimate boss?
It's you. It's us. According to John Locke, the true, final, and ultimate power in any fair society always rests with the citizens themselves. Government is made by the people, for the people, and if necessary, it can be changed by the people. Look around. Locke's blueprint is basically written into the DNA of almost every modern democracy. When Thomas Jefferson wrote Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness, he was channeling Locke's life, liberty, and property. That fundamental deal, trading a little absolute freedom for a lot of security, is the contract we're all still living under. So the real question for us right now is, how's that deal working out for you?